the December 12th, 2022 City Council work session. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials webpage. And I thank you again for joining us. I will note that we have a couple of counselors, both sick at home with COVID, who are on Zoom tonight, sadly. And with that, I call this December 12th, 2022 work session of the Eugene City Council to order. And our first item of business is appointment of an interim counselor to Ward 7. And I think we don't need any explanation. I'm just going to turn to my colleague, Council President Greg Evans, and leave it to you to put a motion on the table.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to appoint Barbie Walker to interim Ward 7 City Councilor.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. I didn't want to jump in front of our Vice President there.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any discussion? No discussion? All right.
Mayor?
Yes.
I move to substitute Lindsay Leach for interim Ward 7.
Second.
Okay, any discussion of that motion? Speak to it. Emily.
I mute.
We can't hear you.
I would move to vote to substitute Thomas Ura.
I don't believe that we can do that at this point. We have to.
Wait, a little.
Okay,
Well,
I'm
wait,
confused. I've heard so many ways this is going to go down. So.
And maybe Catherine can set us straight.
So there's a main motion on the table to appoint Barbie Walker, and there's a motion to substitute Lindsay Leach. A motion to substitute is technically a motion to amend, and it can be amended again. So you can have a motion to amend an amendment. So you can have a motion to substitute the substitution, or you can dispose of you can vote on the motion for substitution. And if that passes, then you can move to amend the substituted motion. Either way, Councilor Semple, you'll have an opportunity, because the vote on the substitution is not a substantive vote on appointing Lindsay Leach.
So her motion is
Okay.
in order if she gets a second.
Right. So if you would like to move to substitute, you may do that at this time, or you may wait to see if the motion to substitute Lindsay Leach passes.
I'll just wait. I'll wait.
Okay, so anybody else to speak to the motion? All in favor of the motion to substitute Lindsay Leach, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that goes, so we're back to the original motion.
Councilor Semple, your motion to substitute would be appropriate at this time.
I move to substitute Thomas Ura for interim Ward 7 councilor.
Second.
Okay. Okay, anyone need to speak to that, or
I'll speak to it.
you want to speak to it, Emily?
Yes, I think it's was a misstep on ours to not interview Thomas, and I wish I'd lobbied for him to get those votes. He's an amazing young person. I'm really looking forward to working with him. We often say how we want more diversity in the council, and he's young. He represents Asian and LGBTQ populations. He's smart, and dedicated, and persistent. He keeps trying to be in a place where he can actually help the world to become better. He's been through many on the ground, literally life experiences. He's lived in Ward 7 almost all of his life, and yet he has traveled outside the state also. I think that he's open and has an independence in his perspectives that would allow him to actually reach out and to hear the different people in Ward 7. It's a complicated ward. And I think he would come in truly open to learning more and being responsive. he already knows quite a lot about the ward and about Eugene. I think this is an incredible opportunity for us and we should grab it. Please support him.
Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, I want to go on record saying, I wish I had voted to give him an interview. I think that would have been a better outcome. And I didn't, so I can only speak for myself saying I wish I had. I did call him last week and we had a very good conversation for at least half an hour, 45 minutes to get to know one another and talk a bit. And I thought he was a really good guy.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to this motion? Okay, so on the motion to substitute Thomas Fiora, all in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2. Okay, so that fails.
You need to
You have
go
to
for
do
the
that.
names.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
No votes.
Oh, all opposed, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that fails. So we are back again to the original motion on Barbie Walker.
Correct.
So all in favor, yes.
I move to substitute Lindsay Walker.
Okay.
Lindsay Leach, sorry.
Okay.
Lindsay Walker is the great candidate.
Balanced, I think.
Okay.
Second,
Well,
Point of
We
order.
already,
what is the, yeah, we need a clarification on the rules.
So the motion to substitute had already been moved and failed. So it would be a motion to reconsider the substitution, and the motion to reconsider can only be made by a prevailing side.
Okay.
You were not voting with the prevailing side. So one of the 4 that voted nay for Lindsay Leach would need to make the motion for reconsideration.
Okay, so the floor is open if anyone wants to do that. Otherwise, we're going to vote on Barbie Walker. Okay, I'm not seeing any action. So all in favor of Barbie Walker, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
so
So,
Mayor, point of information or point of clarification
yes,
of the prevailing side,
That's no longer.
in regards to the Lindsay Leach nomination, either Counselors Evans, Groves, Clark, or Semple would
Mhm.
need to make a motion to reconsider. Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
That's correct. Okay.
Part.
Thank you.
Even after all of them fail, the original motion, isn't it just start over?
Correct. It's it would be a motion to renew, which according to Robert's Rules of Order cannot be made in the same meeting. It could be
Next.
made at a subsequent meeting. But it would need to be, if it's being made in the same meeting, it would need to be made as a motion to reconsider, and then it has to be the prevailing side. A motion to renew could be made by anybody at another meeting, at the next meeting.
so can I make a motion now, Mayor?
yes, you may make a motion.
I want to make a motion to substitute Carol Zorn.
And so just for a point of order, it would be just another main motion, because your main motion to appoint Barbie Walker failed. So you can, it doesn't need to be a substitute. Just
I would make a motion to appoint Carol Zorn.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, and you want to speak to it?
I can speak to it. Yeah, I was really impressed with Carol's interview. She watches council meetings. She appears to be extremely well informed. She would be a fresh face and a new representative from the River Road area. I think at this point, we do need to fill that interim seat with somebody who has the care, consideration, and the longevity that Carol Zorn brings as a resident of Ward 7.
Okay, Ellen.
So if this motion fails, then we're done with this round, and unless someone brings up another individual, and if no one passes or gets a majority, then we postpone until the next meeting.
Yes, yes, or you can talk about other processes that
Other
a
options.
majority of you would want to consider. So if we get to
Opening
that
it
where
up,
we kind of,
opening people or whatever. Okay.
yes.
So if they all fail, then then it would just, if we run out of people, then don't get a majority, we can bring it up again on Wednesday.
We can't, or you can talk about wanting to
Or
do
about
something
other
different
options, okay.
today. It just needs to be a majority that approves doing something.
Majority that, the prevailing majority on one of the previous votes can call for reconsideration.
no,
Your parliamentary procedures can be changed by a majority vote. So it defaults to, the Roberts rules that says you cannot renew a motion at the same meeting. If a majority votes to change that, you can do that.
Okay.
And Roberts rules explicitly talks about that,
Okay.
about having a different process provided by the body.
otherwise a motion to renew on Wednesday would be
It would be
appropriate.
in order and consistent with.
Okay. All right. So Carol Zorn is on the table. Any other questions needing to speak to that? All in favor of Carol Zorn? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so she goes down. Okay, so yes, Mike?
Move to appoint Janet Ayers.
Second.
Okay, do you want to speak to that?
No, thank you. I think all of us had a good chance to hear everybody and at the interviews and so forth.
Okay. All in favor of Janet Ayers? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, she's down. Okay, Alan.
Move to approve Daniel Isaacson,
Second?
Okay,
just to.
you want to speak to it?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. All in favor of Daniel Isaacson, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. So he goes down. Okay, who's left?
Nobody.
No one.
We're
Well,
done.
technically,
Anybody that voted with the prevailing party. So every no vote is every motion failed. So anybody that voted no on any of the candidates could make a motion at this point, could make a motion to reconsider that candidate.
Alan,
So if we made a motion to table to Wednesday, then a motion to, what'd you call it?
Renew.
Renew would be in order still.
Correct.
motion to tables,
I'm moved to table to Wednesday.
is that a postpone to a date certain?
It would, yeah, it is. I mean, a motion to postpone to a
Postpone to
date.
Wednesday
Second?
table.
Mike, yes.
I might be tempted to vote in favor of postponing until Wednesday, but there are other alternatives for us to dispose of this today. There were other people who turned in applications, for example. We could have a good thorough debate at the table, which might be fun. I don't sense in the faces I'm seeing a strong desire for that, so I may be in favor
All right. Greg, did you have
of
a
moving to
comment?
Wednesday.
Yeah, city attorney, what would happen if we made no appointment and we left the seat open until the May election?
Your charter requires it to be filled within 90 days, which is January 1st. So you would be out of compliance with your charter, which would then, it creates the possibility of somebody bringing an action in circuit court with a writ of mandamus action. And a writ of mandamus action is an action asking a judge to require you to comply with your charter. So that's the risk that it poses.
So would a judge be able to either, well, will require us to make a decision, but if we still couldn't come to a consensus or majority rather, will we all be held in contempt of court? Or would, this go over to, a judge to make, a determination or an appointment?
I know.
Would take it
No.
out of our hands.
Your charter only provides for that council to appoint a vacancy. A judge would, I can't imagine a scenario where a judge would try to exercise authority contrary to the charter. The judge would be ordering you to comply with your charter, if in fact that series of events happen where
Yeah, I've got.
someone brings a
There.
written mandamus action, and that's what the judge would be, that's what they would be asking the judge to do, make the council fill the vacancy.
You have to get used to county food.
Okay, I have a queue. I have Matt, then Emily, then Randy, then Alan. So Matt,
I was just pointing that Emily's
Okay.
in the queue, Mayor.
okay, Emily?
I'm just wondering what we think will be different on Wednesday.
The problem is that we need a prevailing vote, someone who voted on a prevailing vote to bring a name back to the table. So if you voted no on someone and you want to bring that back for reconsideration, then you have the option of doing that now, as opposed to pushing this off until Wednesday.
And on Wednesday, wouldn't we just be doing that again? Are we gonna have more applicants? Are we gonna be talking more? I just don't understand what we're gonna gain by waiting until Wednesday.
Well, we're
And
in
we'll
an
be back
impasse.
doing just where we are right now.
We're in an impasse right now. So it would just give you 2 days to decide if you were going to come closer to an agreement.
And if we didn't, then what happens? We're up at the end of our year.
Well, I would just encourage this council to find a pathway forward today. And you have 5 candidates in front of you. You've added a 6th, actually. You've considered them. You all know how you voted. And any one of you who has voted no on one can bring that back if you think you could have a majority for that. So that is the way out of the impasse for this council, and I would encourage you to find a path.
And Mayor, if I may add, if you could also, as a body, just vote on making motions to renew today, if you wanted to do that. I just want to provide that as an option, instead of somebody could move to allow motions because you're at an impasse. Someone could move to allow motions to renew within your same meeting. And if a majority approved that, you could do that instead of, if
Okay. Oh,
there was
okay.
a desire. I just want to,
Well, that's good. Okay. All right. So that was Emily. Randy, comment?
Mayor, thank you, Mayor, but the city attorney answered my question.
Okay. All right, Alan?
I think we're at an impasse unless we're at 3-3-1 basically. And unless someone changes their mind, is there an opportunity for, in the charter, it says, in the case of a tie, the mayor breaks the tie. And we don't have any ties here. They're all 3-4 or 2-5. So would it, if we were gonna involve the mayor in this, A, is that appropriate under the charter, and B, how would you do it?
there isn't a way when there's 7 of you, because all of these votes need to come to a majority vote by the 7 of you. So the mayor is not a member of your body, and there is no way to have her as a voting member unless there's a tie. And so unless somebody doesn't show up, then there's 6 of you. But otherwise, when there's 7, there is no role for the mayor.
Okay. So I don't see the point of going around in circles this evening. Having people sleep on it might be a good idea. So that's why I made the motion to postpone to Wednesday.
Okay. I have 2 people who want to speak to this. So before we do a motion for something new, let me just hear what everyone has to say. Mike?
Can I be reminded of the vote for Carol Zorn?
3-4.
It was 3-4.
Who was the Who are the four no votes?
I believe it was Counselor Zelenka, Counselor Keating, Counselor Ye, and Counselor Semple.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Matt?
Is there a motion on the table?
I believe there
Yes.
was, you seconded,
Okay, I just want to
You
make,
second.
make sure, because if not, I was going to ask for precise language to renew. But I'm happy to support the motion that's on the table. Because I do think sleeping on it might be in our best interest. But I also think that council recognizes the importance of getting this done. And we all have our first, second, third, fourth, fifth choices. And I think it would be worth exploring a motion to renew tonight before we put it to bed for the evening.
you could vote down the motion to postpone until Wednesday. See if you can, if there's a motion to renew and that a majority will do that and you still can't get anywhere, you could bring the motion to postpone till Wednesday back. If there is a desire to continue working through and see where you can get, there has to be some dispatch of the motion to postpone until Wednesday. Unless it's withdrawn.
Okay, so the motion to postpone to a date certain is on the table. It has been seconded. So all in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Nope, yep, wait. Jennifer, is your hand still up or did you take it down?
Yeah, sorry. It was
You're
supposed
still
to
voting yes to do a date
Yes.
certain?
be- Yes.
Okay, okay, so I have Jennifer, I have Alan and Mike, 3, all opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so you want to put a motion on?
I do, and if, city attorney, if I can get the exact language to make a motion to renew.
I think what you would want to do is move to allow motions to renew to occur at the same meeting in which they were made.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Clarification for the purpose of filling this vacancy only.
Yeah, it's, yes, correct.
Yeah, but in this time, is there a second for that motion to renew? So you guys don't want to postpone and you also don't want to solve it now. I don't know what to do. Yeah, it's like, what?
I mean,
I'll
go ahead.
second.
Did you just second it?
No, I was
No.
gonna question.
I'll second it.
You'll second it?
Just take it to a vote. see
Just
what
to get
happens.
it. Just like- Yeah, Mike,
The way this comes down is somebody's gonna change their mind tonight.
Mhm.
Or we're coming back on Wednesday to
right.
get this done.
that's right. One way or the other.
Mhm.
So,
I would prefer, in the name of expediency, I'd prefer to get it done tonight. I just want to respect my colleagues enough. I don't think any of them are gonna change their mind tonight. I really don't.
I don't either.
And so that's why I support Alan's motion, because I think we need time to consider it.
Matt, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I hold out hope that
Awesome.
that one of our colleagues will change their mind. We all saw on Monday night, the same round of persons. And I supported one that wasn't even here and was one of the few that even voted for that applicant to advance to an interview round. I'm proud of that vote. I think there's an opportunity to press pause, look back at our notes, our gut check, and recognize that there were 5 candidates that came and sat in that chair and shared their vision and values and articulated why they're going to be the best representative for Ward 7. That's why the opportunity to renew is important. Tonight, it's just one last effort, one last bit of hope that this council will come to a majority.
Okay, Mike, another comment?
Sorry. May I be reminded of the no votes for Janet Ayers?
Well, I have 2 in favor. of
Yeah,
Janet
you can do
Ayers,
that.
and so the remainder were, and so
Okay.
the 2 in favor, I believe, were you, Counselor Clark, and Counselor Groves.
Okay,
And the remainder were opposed.
okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to renew on the table. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. Two. Okay, so now
So-
now where are we?
So now what you've provided is just a process ability for anybody and everyone that's that has had motions. So basically it puts everybody back on the table and anybody else that somebody wants to offer that's not on this list, and a motion to renew their appointment into the interim Ward 7.
Okay, Counselor Matt, go for it.
I move to nominate Lindsay Leach, interim Ward 7 counselor.
So just for correction, it's
But
not a
point of-
nomination.
Point, excuse me.
Non-nomination.
Appointed.
Point. Thank you.
But
And
don't
that's,
you still have to be a part of it?
No,
No, it's a renew.
For a motion to renew, now you-
understand. Forgive me.
anybody that
Forgive
can remake it, it's not reconsider, correct?
thank you.
So you have on the table now is a motion to appoint Lindsay Leach to the interim Ward 7.
Oh,
Thank
wait, oh, wait, Mayor.
okay. And do you want to speak to that?
Did I get a second?
Yeah.
You did.
Great,
go
thank
down.
you. Yeah, there's an opportunity to have a millennial mom, business owner, nonprofit director, who articulated very well the issues in front of Ward 7, which are the issues ranging throughout our community: houselessness, mental health crises, in particular. I just ask colleagues to, I'm appealing to folks' sense of service and a shared longing, I would hope, to have a fresh voice on this council who is going to be coming at problems a little differently than maybe the rest of us will. I encourage colleagues, please, to recognize and remember how passionate and informed and studious and collegial Lindsay Leach was when she was at this table sitting right across from us right now.
Okay, yeah, Mike.
I just wanted, because I'm gonna get asked this by lots of other people, I suspect all of us will get many emails after tonight. I wanted to say that I will probably be a no vote, not for anything that I thought Lindsay Leach showed a flaw of any kind for. She was a very sweet person, very articulate, liked her very much. The only challenge for me was there are two quick things. One, I asked a question about being either in harmony with or disagreeing with the majority of people in our community. And I thought she answered very quickly that she was not in the same line of thinking with most people that answered the survey question that I asked during there. That concerned me. Number two, she, from what little I heard in our interview and what I read in her profile and of her background, seemed to me very much like the voice of Claire on many of these issues that we deal with. And as that recall came out the way it did, I don't feel comfortable putting someone who has the exact same, for lack of a better way to describe it, issue profile as the person that was recalled. I want to respect the voters of that ward by not doing that. So that's my only reason for my no vote.
Any other comments? Okay, Lindsay Leach is back on the table. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. We're still at 3. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yes, Mike.
Since we're going to go through this again, I would like to
We're not getting.
renew the nomination appointment of Barbie Walker.
Second.
Okay, all in, anyone want you to speak to that, or anyone want to speak to that? Okay, all in favor of Barbie Walker, please raise your hands. 2, 3, all opposed?
I think
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're definitely going in circles.
Could I clarify? I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Counselor Semple's vote. Could someone?
That was a no vote. I'm correct about that, Emily? That was a no vote?
Okay.
Alan?
Motion to postpone to Wednesday.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of postponement to Wednesday? Oh, any discussion? Do you want
Emily
to?
has her hand.
Oh,
up, so it's Jennifer.
Jennifer, do you want to speak to that?
I was trying to vote.
Oh, okay. All right. Emily, did you want to speak to the motion to postpone?
No, I was going to make a motion for Thomas Hura.
Okay, well, we've got a motion to postpone. Has it been seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All in favor of the motion to postpone, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 1. So that passes.
And Counselor Simple, the opportunity on Wednesday to make a motion, because that motion was made before you made your motion for Thomas Hira, you would have an opportunity on Wednesday. It's not foreclosed because this meeting is ending. I just want to make sure you want.
Okay, that helps. I think that if 2 counselors have put their person forward, I should get 2 also.
I do too.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay, so with that, we'll come back to this on Wednesday. Correct?
Yep.
Correct. Okay, so we are done with this item for now and ready to move on to the second item on our agenda.
Okay.
So that is intergovernmental relations, 2023 legislative priorities, and so I'll turn it over to the manager first. Sure.
Mayor, while they're setting up, can I just say I'm gonna leave. I am super sick, and I will see you all next time.
Thank you very much for hanging in there.
Thank you.
Take care.
You're better.
Both of you.
Obviously, being a city councilor gives you COVID.
I wonder if the CDC knows.
One of the causes.
Could be. Could be. Go online. and-
Thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up on a previous work session, so we'll just wait for Ethan to get set up and then we'll just dive right in.
I think I got this up. Do you want to?
There it is. There. It's behind you.
And then it'll show up in front of you eventually.
All right.
It's like magic.
It is magic. Thank you, everyone. Ethan Nelson, City of Eugene, Intergovernmental Relations Manager. Wow, it's like when I go to Salem. Obviously, it's the City of Eugene. Good evening, everybody. So I'm back following up on the October 19th work session. And so I've got a presentation for you. We'll get on through. So as you can see, we've got some committee updates from the IGR committee from the December 7th meeting. And really trying to come back from those updates were out of your October 19th meeting. You passed the policy, the state and federal policy document, and also the state priorities, but you also said, hey, we want to talk a little bit more about some other items. And so can you bring that back? And so following our process, brought that back to IGR last week. And that's what we'll walk through today is some of those changes. Ultimately, we're looking for you to adopt those changes within the policy document and priorities document again. So what we've got to talk through is and following up on is the IGR council engagement process, 2023 funding capital priorities, and then as well potential measure 110 position update on state mental and behavioral health system. And then additionally, we've got some recommendations from the Resilient and Efficient Buildings Task Force, the climate friendly, an update on the climate friendly and equitable communities, and then updated language on rental housing to align with current council policy. So I'll walk you through those today. So as in our IGR meeting, we walked through and these are the core updates for our priorities. It's unhoused response funding, project funding, and which it had been as a placeholder for capital construction, but we've kind of broadened that out just to be funding for a couple different projects because they may not be capital construction funding, but it's funding nonetheless. An update on behavioral health investments that we're prioritizing that IGR recommended we prioritize. We'd like to put those in front of you as well. And then an update on the Resilient Buildings Task Force. The other 4 items, there's no change on. So we're not going to really dive into those unless you have additional questions on those. So the first one had been in alignment with our from the last meeting, was seeking $7.5 million annually from the state of Oregon for unhoused needs. And so we had this as an item as our top priority last time, but we put a number onto it in that $7.5 million, which is 50% of the FY23 allocation for unhoused response. And so we're going to be seeking 50% of that from the state on an ongoing basis for hopefully roughly about 10 years.
Say 10?
Yeah, Councilor Clark, yeah, 10 years. Well, we know we'll probably have it for a while. So, but the legislature only sets biennial budgets, and so we would only be able to ask for 2. But the discussion with Oregon Mayors Association and other cities is that a 10-year allocation is really the longevity of the discussion we're having, or the interest. So the 5 projects below represent the top priorities for seeking state funding during the 2023 legislative session. They're based on council priorities, community input, city fiscal needs, in alignment with the legislatures, and Governor-elect Kotek's priorities. So the first one, unhoused response, I already took a look at. The second one, Clear Lake Road infrastructure. So we're requesting $8.5 million for phase 1 to extend infrastructure to serve economic development, housing, future recreation, and future fire station needs. Crow Road infrastructure. The second one is we're requesting $4.1 million to extend infrastructure to serve housing production. Number 3, community clean air upgrades, as we're requesting roughly $2 million. We will request $2 million to upgrade 2 to 4 community centers in Eugene to serve as clean air shelters. And then the last one, number 4, is police body and dash cameras. And we're requesting $1 million to match the $1.6 million of city funds to replace existing body and dash cameras and expand the system. That funding we also asked for as a congressionally directed spending at the federal level this last year, and we're unsuccessful, but we will also seek that federal funding once again through our Senate and new Congresswoman Hoyle. The recommendation that we provided at the IGR committee meeting was to support, and the IGR committee supported those priorities 3-0 unanimously. Moving on to the next one related to our behavioral health investments. So there's a number of legislative concepts that are pre-session filed as study bills, and so they put these on out as items that have a relating to clause that then will be updated as we get closer to the session, or it's just a holding part as the policy gets written and then submitted. And so there's a number of Oregon Health Authority has put forth their budget prior to the transition between administrations, and we believe that most of that will stay solid through the transition to Governor-elect Kotek, and then as well as she appoints a new OHA head as the current head is retiring and stepping down. So within that, there's 3 items that we're seeking support for and recommending as priority 1. And the first one is amending House Bill 2417 from the 2021 session. And that would allow cities to be eligible entities for direct funding for providing mobile crisis response services. And so that's really CAHOOTS. And so under that bill in 2417, counties are eligible, but cities are eligible only to receive grants from counties. And so we want to be directly eligible for funding from OHA for reimbursement and or direct allocation for crisis response services that we fund. The second one is their POP, which is their policy option package. So that's hence the POP. And that's for their 988, the 988 call line, as well as the behavioral crisis system, 988 call centers, and then also crisis stabilization centers. And so as many of you may have already been involved in discussions or heard about Lane County's Crisis Stabilization Center and the focus on that. This would be from the OHA's budget, an allocation of roughly $340 million for those stabilization centers in the 988 call sign or call centers. And so we're supportive of that because ideally that would be the funding mechanism for a stabilization center at the local level. The third one is going to be a similar in the POP 429 for behavioral health crisis system, and it's payer parity for behavioral health crisis services. And so what that does is that it allows for the services that are being provided to be recompensated at a level that is commensurate to service being provided. And so it sets those levels for funders to insurers to pay and reimburse. And this would be for both for mobile crisis response centers, and then as well for Eugene Springfield Fire at times when they're providing transport. The Resilient and Efficient Buildings Task Force, the Rebuilding Task Force as it's otherwise known, Mayor Venus has served on that, produced a draft report on November 23rd. And as you can see on the slide, the following items were all put as recommendations. What I came forward to the IGR committee and they approved that was that we take the top 3 of those and include those as our top priorities within the placeholder that had been in our state priorities document. And the reason for that is that they look to say promote, incentivize, or subsidize. Number 2, promote, incentivize, or subsidize heat pumps. And the third, decarbonize institutional public buildings. If we prioritize that and we're in engagement, we can help to steer what that conversation looks like. If it includes buildings other than state agencies, or if it does, then will there be funds associated with those, which all 3 of those align with the climate action plan. So. And then as we keep moving forward, there's a couple other items that we updated within the policy document that was in your packet. And so the first one is related to the rental housing. And so what that now states is Eugene supports legislation that increases the stability of renter households and maintains appropriate protections for landlord-tenant relations. And the IGR committee approved that language in alignment with council policy. And then the other 2 additions are related to public safety. And so one is having to do with Oregon State Hospital. And so this new language, again, it's in your documents in the attachment. I think it's B, or it could be A, attachment A. The city of Eugene supports statute changes and new programs that reduce time needed to transfer incarcerated defendants who lack fitness to proceed to the Oregon State Hospital, but do not negatively impact law enforcement, the city of Eugene criminal justice system, or the welfare of the Eugene community. And so it just gives us a position for us to be able to ensure that if there's people that are not being held at the Oregon State Hospital and they're transferred back to our community, that we have safeguards for community safety as well as the person's health and well-being. The last one is that we added onto here, Eugene supports legislation that accelerates the implementation of and increases the transparency of ballot measure 110's addiction treatment centers. Additionally, Eugene supports legislation that creates incentives for offenders to seek treatment. And so that is language that helps us to navigate as policies are being worked through the legislature this next year related to Measure 110. It's kind of bifurcated. There's going to be 2 pathways. One is really on that treatment side of things. That's going to go through the mental health and behavioral health committees. And then there's more of the enforcement side that's going to go through Senate Judiciary and House Judiciary. And so those were all 3 of those were adopted 3-0 by the IGR committee to add to the process. And then the last piece is the IGR process. And so this was the slide from the last meeting that we had, and it's just an overview and a reminder of some of the previous discussions that we'd have, and some of the updates that we created this last year at the beginning of the year. created the process for non-IGR counselors to bring a policy issue to the committee, provided regular legislative updates from the IGR manager during the session, and also share regular updates from the committee by the committee chairperson during the reports period of city council meetings. And then since then, we've also identified, and I think that you've heard these at your last meeting in November, where Councillor Evans as chair shared some of these new updates. And so these are the new process ones where we said that outside of session, we'd be providing one update per month during items of interest. And so Councillor Evans gave that as his role as chair last month. He'll give that tonight as well, although it might be redundant given today's work session. And so then the other new item was that during session, we would give 2 updates per month. One would be that items of interest, kind of what happened with the IGR committee. And then the second one during the items of interest would be more of a, here's the what's happening on the top priority bills that the city of Eugene is working on, our priority 1 bills. And so it'd be much more of a situational awareness. And then the third one is that during the session, those weekly priority update emails, bill update emails that go out to full council, those will be included in your weekly council pack. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for that overview. I have Alan and then Mike in the queue.
And Randy.
And Randy.
Yeah, I had a question about the, bring back the last slide there, Ethan. Yeah, those 2 new items. I am assuming, and I want to clarify that when they do those reports during items of interest, we usually limit those to 3 minutes. I'm assuming that this report isn't limited to those 3 minutes. Otherwise, that would be kind of silly, I think, to have a report that's only 3 minutes long during a session, which on important topics.
I think the report will take as long as it needs to take. I don't see us having it, limited to our 3-minute speaking cycles.
Yeah.
Given the depth and the nature and the importance of the session, then, I will be reporting out as long as I'm chair of IGR, as long as I need to report with
or whatever it takes to get there. Right?
The grace of the mayor to, get that out on the table so everybody knows what's going on, how bills are progressing, and where our priority items are moving in terms of our legislative priorities.
Good, I agree with that. I just want to clarify that that's not part of the normal items where we're limited to 3 minutes.
No, we'll do it as long as we takes.
Yeah, but not too long.
Within bounds.
Within-
We're not going to have an informal work session at the beginning as part of items. So just
I'm not going to give her Trump speech, trust me.
yeah, and well, it wouldn't just be you alone. So okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mayor. On the second item where it lists the 5 priorities, are those in priority order or are they just the top 5 in no particular order?
The way that we've looked at them is that those are the top, like in priority order. So unhoused is our number 1, then Clear Lake is our number 2, Crow Road number 3, then community centers. And the reason for that is that there really isn't a funding source for the body cams. We'll search something, we'll go and try to find something, and we'll continue to look at the federal level, but it's a more arduous journey at the state level to find funding for those. Whereas there's a statewide discussion and the governor-elect has said, yes, that she wants to address homelessness and unhoused and work with cities. And so that's something that is key. And then the other ones have access to lottery bonds. Additionally, the legislature has identified, and the governor-elect has identified, economic development and preparation for economic activity, including trying to get money out of the Federal CHIPS Act for having land that's suitable for development. That aligns perfectly with Clear Lake. And then additionally, the legislature has identified housing production as a major priority this year. And so having those items kind of quote unquote shovel ready on the shelf for our legislators to be able to put into those policy bills if there's funding attached, then that would be ideal. And we wouldn't have to then go to lottery bonds. And so the way that I'm trying to approach it is have those on the deck, and then whatever funding pathways open on up, that we've got something that we can push forward on.
Yeah. And so the infrastructure bills are kind of the second priority. In fact, the governor-elect, her first speech as governor-elect was today on economic development. So that seems wholly appropriate. And so the fourth one it is the only one you didn't address, which is the clean air upgrades. Is that in the same, that's a next tier down because it has potential for federal funding?
Yeah. And so I think that there's going to be, my sense is that could be a lottery bond ask. It's in alignment with lottery bonds. It's not as strong as the other ones because lottery bonds tend to be more towards economic development focus. But the other pieces is that under the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a lot of money related to that could be accessed for public buildings retrofits of their HVAC systems and their shell. And so these could be primed once again, that if there's Oregon Department of Energy program that allocates money towards public buildings, we'd want to have something that would be competitive.
Cool. My final question relates to the second to last recommendation, which was on behavioral health updates. And it says that the recommendation is to move to replace number 5, support increased state investment in mental health and behavioral systems in the priority list, and then add these other 2 items. I don't have a problem with the other 2 items, but I don't understand why we would replace that general statement. There's lots of general statements in this document for some very specific ones. I don't see why this one needs to be replaced. Why can't they both be in there? There'd be a general statement of support increased investment in mental health and behavioral systems and support for these different top 3 POPs and amendments. So I would move to strike the move to replace number 5, support increased state investment in mental health behavioral systems in the Eugene State Priority document, and add the 3, and then just say add the 3 recommendations.
You have a second? I'm not sure.
Could you repeat the motion?
Yeah, I think I'm not.
So
What's the?
So the gist, I don't see why we wouldn't keep the general statement of support for investment in mental health behavioral systems. We have lots of general statements in the document. And what we were replacing this general statement with is 3 very specific proposals, and then deleting the general statement for support for mental health and behavioral systems investments. And I don't see why we would replace the general statement with these 3 specifics, and why wouldn't we just have both?
So I'm going to let Ethan speak to that.
Yeah. So as the rationale as to why that was recommended, proposed, was that the counselors and the IGR members over time and during discussions said we'd want more definition related to that general statement. And so that's why those came forward. What I would propose is to say, could we take the general statement, move it into the state and federal policy document, which has got more general statements in it. And then in the priorities, we keep just those 3, because in terms of the work that I do and lead in Salem with our team and advocates, having definition related to our priorities is very key to our success. And so if it's too broad, we tend to catch more than what we can actually haul in, if that makes sense. It's kind of capacity.
It sort of does, but we have one document that's 5 pages long with a billion different options in here. That's called the state and federal legislative policy.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what you're suggesting. That if to me they're the same document. You were saying leave it in the federal, but take it out of the state.
No, there's 2 documents, Counselor Zlink. There's one, which is the policy document, which is the broad statement. And really that is kind of our baseline of what we either support or don't. Then there's a priorities, and the priorities are really the key things that I'm going to spend the majority of my time working and advocating for. And so I would prefer to have, and that's what the recommendation is within the priorities document, a definition, whereas in the policies document, it's a little bit broader.
Is the,
It's an attachment B.
yeah,
highlighted
I got it. This
version.
is the state one. So
It's for the
is that
state.
statement, general statement in, where is that in the,
What I was saying is we could add that in there.
oh, add it, okay.
Yeah.
I would agree to that as a substitute.
Okay.
Language, so adding it to the general document and leaving the three parties and the state parties.
Do we need a motion do we need to vote on that? Or is that's
That'll be
that's
part of
clear
our
enough?
general motion when we move to approve, when I move to approve.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
And that was all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
okay. Let's see. I had Mike, then Randy, then Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. Sir, thank you so much for the infrastructure stuff. That's perfect and awesome. Just the other day at Budget Committee, I asked the question, do we need to have money in the budget to scope the costs? What you're talking about right there is not only, yes, we know what we need, it's, we're gonna go get it from the legislature, and that's awesome. My one question is, and it's probably for the manager, is there still need for scoping to know what else we may need that's not covered in the particular infrastructure ask he's putting on the table that leaves us short of creating buildable lands that are actually buildable?
So the answer is the same as it was in budget committee. So we're currently working on that. So I think Matt and Denny have been working on it. We've scoped out what we could to
Great job, guys.
get an ask in, but yeah, we'll get you more information on that.
Is the write-up deadline still what, 9 days away, 21st or something, to have bills written up and ready for the description of what they're, I mean,
Yeah, for pre-session bills.
Yeah.
But it's open season once we get on. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll still be able to submit bills.
how far out?
I can't pull up the deadline right now, what they are.
What do you think? Or
I think it's usually about 3 months into the session is when they'll
Okay.
start getting policy deadline. But
they still
Fortunately
ring a bell
for-
and saying no more at the table, huh?
right, but fortunately, some of the benefits, we likely will have one of our local delegation on House rules as a chair. And so that one is not a policy committee. And so that one
You
bills
can
can keep
slide through.
working. Same
Is
with House
Senator
Revenue.
Przanski still on judiciary?
Yes. And so on Senate Judiciary as well.
Because on the behavioral health piece, I'm gonna wanna, so he can still address things that don't come through pre-session write-up that, okay.
Yep.
Do we have particular bills that serve things we're trying to fix or create in the city of Eugene that we have local legislators or any other legislators carrying on our behalf?
Yes. Yeah.
Lots of them, a few of them.
Well, here, I'll go back to. So on the behavioral health investments on the 2417, House Bill 2417 fix, Senator Manning has put forth
Cool.
a pre-session bill. And so we've got
Cool.
that language. And it's, as it's said earlier, it's a study bill. And so we have to work on getting the language, but we've held meetings with Senator Wyden's staff, Senator Manning's staff, OHA. And so that we've kind of getting a pathway because Senator Wyden wants this fixed.
Okay.
The cybersecurity public records exemption, that one, Representative Nathanson has put forth the bill language. And so we have that. And then the Senate Bill 1565 revision, Senator Przanski, that was his bill. And so it's a revision and he put that forward. Mayor and I had a one-on-one with him today and he was good to support that still. And so that's moving forward. And then the public agency attorney-client privilege, we don't have the bill, but we have a City of Portland has put it forward. And so we're going to partner with them as trying to find a sponsor for it. So those are the ones we're carrying ourselves.
Right. There was a number of years ago, and I'm not gonna know the number of years ago, but I think it was maybe 6 or 8. Chris Edwards was senator in the North Eugene area at the time. So he sponsored a bill that I believe we need again at some point. And so I'm using this opportunity to alert you. I hope that our IGR is going to send you off to try and succeed at this. One of the things that we had to do once upon a time to give a particular set of people the ability to annex into the city of Eugene in the Santa Clara area was mending a piece of state code that still exists, only that was done for a 2-year temporary increment that allowed for the boundary issue not to complicate their annexation. In other words, they weren't directly adjacent to a city facility, but they were islanded. And we may need a fix like that if we're going to do some other things. I'm hoping we do this next year. So you may want to know if the IGR comes to you and says that, and you guys work on it, what you may want to get a copy of that bill from a few years ago that Edwards did. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Randy and then Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ethan, for the presentation. I'm really impressed with the document. It's been nice to work with you in this new capacity, serving on IGR, but I really like the clarity that this provides. I feel like sometimes we swim in a sea of ambiguity, and this is something that has specific points and objectives to work on, which I like. And I wholeheartedly, as I voiced during budget committee meeting, the whole idea of having buildable lands inventory that's ready to go, especially on economic development. Because it's what I've seen lately on some of the meetings Councilor Evans and I have had with potential businesses. When they say yes, they want to move quickly. And that's going to be incredibly important that we're able to capitalize on that. And then the last point/question I wanted to make, I really support the idea that we're doing now where IGR chair comes to before council on a Monday night and shares what's going on. But I'm hoping maybe tonight, considering the length of our agenda, that we can forego that since we are just now having a whole work session on this and give you a break, Councilor Evans.
Okay, well, I have no problem with that, but if we need to stick to what we need to stick to, then that I'm fine with that as well. I just, I do plan on attending and going to session with Ethan and also attending the LOC Cities Day in January to kind of reinforce our presence in the legislative body, because I know the mayor will be up there on various occasions. And then, as IGR chair and my relationship with LOC can help reinforce some of our positions.
Well, thank you, Councilor Evans. I appreciate your work and dedication and experience on this. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. Ethan, this is welcome, and to the IGR committee members and leadership, it's applauded. Thank you. Alan, on the state priorities, number 5, support increased state investment in mental health and behavioral health systems. The document indicates the city of Eugene supports an increased level of investment from the state to address the systemic challenges within the mental health and behavioral health systems, and an expansion of eligible entities receiving state funding for mental health and crisis support services. And I wonder if that's sufficient, if that meets your request. I don't necessarily.
Well, isn't that specifically what was going to be eliminated?
No, that was not my read. That's in the state priorities.
Let me take a look.
Well, it says eliminate, replace number 5, support increase in state investment.
Yeah.
In its entirety.
Yeah, so basically I was just going to put in these 3 bullet points of the support. Those would be our priorities
Okay.
around that.
I misunderstood.
And then take that
This part
language.
would be eliminated.
In
Which
its
was why I
entirety. Okay.
apologize. Right.
Okay.
But we moved it into that document.
Understood.
Which is fine.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Okay. Quick question about
Still there.
in the public safety bucket. I recognize that there's reference to Measure 110. Colleagues from the dais have talked about Measure 110. I understand there are hurdles in the court right now in regards to Measure 114. But I wanted to know if there's been conversation with lawmakers or within IGR about seeking funding for Measure 114 implementation with local law enforcement in regards to training or database support. Should it be untangled in the court and advance the way voters said it should back on November 8th.
I haven't been involved in those discussions. I know that Chief Skinner has been involved in a number of discussions related to that, not only as chief of police, but also from his role as the chair for the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police. And he may come back to me at some point or to the IGR committee and say, hey, this is something that we need to look at. But to date, that hasn't come on up.
It's my understanding that a generation ago, when California advanced a similar measure, there was a basic firearm safety certificate one would have to pass. It ended up being a revenue generator for local communities. So I would hope that that we could find ways to champion the voters' wishes in regards to training and database support for local law enforcement when it comes to implementing Measure 114, of course, once it's untangled and out of the courts.
Okay.
I just want to recognize that the Denny and Matt really were the ones that brought forward the Clear Lake and the Crow Road. So while I like the accolades, I also want to make sure that it goes to the right spot. And their teams are working with us, and we're pretty excited about having some good stuff to be able to promote at the legislature this next year. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. If there are no other questions, I really want to appreciate your work, Ethan, and it's amazing how much you need to navigate and how much you need to understand in order to do what you do, and we appreciate it. It's really helpful, and this is a great document. So with that, I believe we are adjourned.
No, Mayor, we got
Oh, you got a motion. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I move to adopt the recommended changes to the 2023 Eugene State and Federal Policies document and the 2023 Eugene State Priorities document as approved by the IGR committee.
Second.
Or as modified.
As
here.
modified by the
Here.
IGR.
Second.
Okay, any other questions, clarifications? All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that passes. Thank you very much. And now we are adjourned.